Hey guys, Basil Mo from Grayson Hobby, and today is going to be...
We're gonna put the RunCam Split into the Wizard 220.
A how-to video.
A how-to video. This is another how-to video. Everybody seemed to like the last one, so we get to do another one. There's a couple weird things on putting the Split into the Wizard. So this video will help you guys get it in there and get it flying without all the hassle.
The tools you'll need. What is it, Will? What are you gonna need?
Basically, tools you're gonna need a 2mm Allen wrench. You're gonna need your soldering equipment, a sponge or something, solder, flux, and like an X220 wire stripper, anything like that.
I'll get it.
Okay,
I'll get it.
Small Phillips head screwdriver, take the old camera out.
And of course,
don't grab the soldering irons hot.
And of course, you'll need your RunCam Split. And there's nothing else you need. All the hardware for the camera is included.
Yeah, the Split came with actually a good little hardware set. Everything seemed to work out pretty good. Depending on what receiver you guys have in it, if you're running this factory receiver for the Wizard, it's going to be a little tighter in there. If you go with the X6B or Spectrum or Taranis receiver of some sort, it's going to have a lot more room in there. Right. But this video, it does work with the IA6B receiver.
The stock receiver.
Yep. So let's get you going on that. Let's dig into it, and we're going to take this one apart and get it going and get it set up like this one.
And quick word to the wise, before you take anything apart or take any connector off, take a quick picture with your phone or something like that. That way you can reference it after you disassemble and you're not, what do they call it, up a creek without a paddle.
I already got a couple screws out here, but let's get this thing apart. Slide this back off. You gotta be careful you don't cut the wires or anything. Slide back. There you go. Receiver. You can either unplug it from here. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it from the flight controller.
We'll move these.
These side plates, we're not going to be able to reuse the side plates unless you Dremel out holes or anything like that. So I would probably just get it flying before you put those back in or mount them up. So here, guys, these buttons right here, they'll be pushed. If you put the side plates in, it'll push the buttons and it'll just reset the board the whole time. So the other side has the USB exposed and it's not cut out for that USB port. So you don't want it grounding or breaking the frame from vibration or anything like that. And also you can get to the SD card with the plate off. So we're just gonna omit the plates in this case. Usually after a few crashes, you lose them anyway.
So this is my model. And the only thing I did before is I did the upgraded mod that we did show the last video.
Yeah, we had a upgraded camera and we had an upgraded VTX. So which is not gonna matter for the case of this install here because we're not gonna use this wire and we're gonna solder new wire. This does have a buzzer and VBAT, but that doesn't matter for the video. We're not doing anything there.
We already showed that video. So
yeah, all the stuff that comes with the RunCam here. Little manual, we got the stuff here. But what we're gonna use, the hardware that comes with it, the camera, this plate, we're not gonna use this metal plate in the video. You can if you want, but for this case, we're just gonna use the plastic one, so I'm gonna leave that back in the box.
Is there a difference?
Just the way it mounts.
Is one better than the other?
One seemed to mount better than the other, yes.
There you go. Guess we're using the one that mounts better, right?
You're a pain in the ass sometimes, you know that? The longer ribbon cable that comes with it, we actually don't need this one, so again, I'm gonna put it back in the box. We are gonna need this cable right here. We're gonna have to cut it and solder, so there will be soldering with this. So we got that cable here, we got our RunCam here, the mount, hardware, and standoff.
All right, what are you doing now?
All right, I'm taking this apart.
What are you taking apart?
We're gonna take the flight controller off because we're gonna have to solder a 5-volt pad.
To where?
To the camera.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Now remember, this is mine, so.
So break it? Okay, cool.
Be gentle.
Be gentle?
Be gentle.
All right. So the flight controller is gonna have to come up. We're gonna have all this nasty wiring here. You know, the legacy of the Wizard being a mess of wires inside. You have 3 different ports that we're gonna use. The video line, the ground, and the 5-volt.
So what are you doing now?
We're gonna desolder the old camera wires. So you literally just desolder it. Got the old camera wire out. Now what we're gonna find here is this is a 5-volt pad over here. These is a 5-volt. There's another spot on this board on the other side as well. So if you're not comfortable, whichever side seems to be easier, but this one is kind of a mess to solder to. So I think I'm gonna use this side.
Okay, all right, get to it.
You'll see this one, the VTX is wired, the camera here, and then the 2 power leads is still in the 3-cell configuration here. You'll see the positive and negative in the front here. So if you have a 4-cell setup, you'll be soldering there, remember from our prior video, and link below on that. But the camera leads here, so what we need to do is take this harness here, and we're gonna solder it, the red to the red here, the black to the black here, and then we're gonna have to solder the yellow lead, which is the camera lead, out to the one, even though it says VTX, is actually the camera lead. Eachine reversed it on this one, so we'll solder it to there.
Okay. So does it matter which side of the cable we have to use, or the same size?
No, these are the same side. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna take it, probably pretty much cut it in half. Cut the 3 wires. Boom. We're gonna cut it about 3 inches long of wire, not counting the connector. So about 3 inches of wire there. And that's what we're gonna use for the lead. All right, so we got our 3 inches of wire here. Now we're gonna need to strip the leads just a little bit, and then we're gonna have to tin the wires and get it ready for solder.
I don't recommend that. All right, so you tin them up, or I mean flux them up, and then you're gonna tin them.
Yep, put flux on them, and then we're just gonna tin them all. Now, one thing I found, because these wires are right here, you may be beneficial to remove the LEDs altogether, but on this case—
Permanently or just temporarily?
Just completely gone. But on this one,
drastic changes.
What I'm going to do here is I'm just actually going to put a little bit of flux on it. This is going to help promote the solder flowing to it quicker, and hopefully we won't have the wires float. So we're going to have to be really careful when soldering this one. And if you have a needle, like a fine tip soldering iron, this would be the time to use it. If you got one of the big guns, you should not be using it on this. Don't use a—
Invest in a good
soldering get a good soldering iron. I'm just basically flowing just a little blob of solder on here, so it helps. What we're gonna do here, I'm gonna start with the ground on there, and work really quick with this one, so I don't flow anything off. The next one. Yeah, you saw that actually started to lift up a little bit, but now at this point, go through, double check, make sure you did not bridge any solder between these 2 points, otherwise you'll fry the whole quad.
And remember, this is mine, so no frying quad.
Yeah. So we got the isolated negative, isolated positive. That's our 5-volt line right there. And the reason that's 5-volt is actually selected here. So make sure, go back and check and make sure the factory, I haven't seen one like this yet, but make sure you don't have the 12-volt pad or the VCC pad, but the 5-volt, it has to be bridged. So you might want to take a voltmeter and just put it on meter on that, make sure you're getting true 5 volts on it.
So if theirs looks like mine, they're good?
Yeah, if you have the 5-volt bridged right here, you can do it these two here. And then the next one we're going to do is just this line here. Again, it says VTX, but it's actually the camera lead in this particular
Isn't the VTX camera?
VTX is right here, but it's the lead that would normally go to the VTX. It's actually listed camera there. If you want, you can reverse it.
This is because the Eachine or the manufacturer of this.
They just did it because the way it lined up front to back.
Okay. So is that it?
That's all the soldering.
All right, let's put it back together. So now we put it back together.
Yep. 5-volt bridge. Ground positive. Make sure they are not touching in between. No shorts or anything. All right, so the fun part of getting this flight controller back down, just like other videos you've seen, there's so many wires. You do not want to force anything, so you kind of have to finagle all the wires here and get them all.
So you're just putting the flight controller back into place?
Yes, right now is reinstalling the flight controller. The split comes with a hardware pack here, so we're going to open this up. I'm going to dump it right here.
You said dump.
There's short ones and long ones. We're actually not going to use the short ones here.
Grab the long ones.
We're going to use the longer ones here. We're going to line this board up, get it to where it sits nice and flat. Remember, try not to force anything. Get it to where it sits level. And then
you can install the long standoffs.
Yep.
On top of the existing standoffs.
Yes. We are probably actually not going to reuse the old ones at this point. All right. So we got that installed. This is our camera, or VTX, the lead to the split.
The new wire.
Yeah, and then the VTX is currently installed in the back, so that's good there. So now we got the RunCam Split, and you'll see all these fancy warnings about the plugging into the computer, stuff like that. We're going to take that off. But definitely read that, pay attention to that. On the bottom side, talks about the Wi-Fi module. Again, pay attention to that, otherwise you'll fry it.
They're supposed to come off?
Yeah. Yes.
Sure?
Yes.
All right.
So what I did on the camera install, the board is actually a little longer this way than it is wide.
So it's not square.
Yeah, it's not true square. It's a little offset. So what I did is I actually ran this connector to the front of the quad towards the camera. The button's on the side, the SD card here. Nice thing about that is you can actually get to the SD card assuming you have a different RX, but the stock RX you can slide back and then move and get there. But that's that. I would advise going ahead and installing your SD card if you have it. The split is going to mount with the ribbon cable to the top here. Now, before we actually mount it and everything, there's only 4 more nylon nuts to hold it. Before we actually mount it down, we're just test fitting, make sure everything's good, everything's lining up. We don't have any issues with the clearance and all that. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this back off, put the quad to the side for a second, put it here, and then I'm going to install the camera mount. The way I did it, everybody, you can experiment with different ways, but the way I did it minimized the amount of frame that was in the way of the camera because it's a pretty wide angle lens when recording in HD. So we're going to use this, the little hardware pack that comes with this. This is the second hardware pack. This is all the camera hardware here. So we're gonna dump that out right there.
Oh, basically, we're gonna just hardware mount the camera to the plate.
Mount this a little non-traditional. I'm gonna mount here with the ribbon cable towards the top. The reason being is because we're actually gonna end up mounting it to these outer holes here to get the camera out and away. And you'll see that on this one here. The camera's pretty far out and up. You may be able to experiment with mounting in different positions and all that and see where you like it the best. But I found this way here had the least of the frame. Yeah, otherwise you still want to trim this back when you're done with it. But I'm only getting just a hair of this here and I'm not getting the props in it. If I move it any lower, I was getting a lot of prop in it. So okay. I like this position here, so this is where we're gonna mount it. Okay. 2mm Allen wrench. And it's probably easier to do this with the camera not, or the Swift split not mounted.
So how many screws you put on each side?
2 on each side. Yeah, you'll be able to tilt it and adjust it and all. All right, back to the quad here.
Ribbon down.
I'm gonna put the ribbon cable down, the SD card on the same side as the USB is what worked for me.
So that if looking at from the back of the quad to the right.
Yeah.
That'd be the right side, would be the SD card.
Now the cable here is gonna plug in with the little silver pins sticking up. So that plugs in like that.
So hold on, the cable we just soldered?
This is the cable we soldered, yeah. Nylon nuts here, and we're gonna screw them on.
So now we're really done with the hookup then, right?
It's pretty close to done, yeah.
All right, so now all the little nuts are on top,
yeah. Now don't forget, we're still gonna have to plug the receiver back in, but for now we're gonna leave it unplugged.
Plug that receiver back in first?
We'll get to it. It's the top plate's on the way.
But wouldn't you have been easier with the cable now?
Maybe.
All right, well, if you want to plan ahead, now would be a good time before you put that on to plug their receiver cable. But we'll see how well it does it.
It probably would have been easier to plug that back in, you're right. So you're just going to plug that back in there.
Okay.
So
that wasn't that hard. I thought it was I thought it was buried. All right, not that bad. All right, give you a pass.
You made a big deal out of it,
Yeah,
huh?
I'll give you a pass.
This guy over here.
Hey, this is my baby. Now you're just putting in, what screws you putting in there? When you put in
I'm going to mount it. I'm going to put the screw into this one here. And again, you can use...
the side plate goes on, right?
Yeah, you can use either one. You can move it around. There's 3 different holes. You can kind of mix and match where you want it. What I'm doing is I'm going to use the bottom one. That's just where it seemed to work best for me. So I'm going to put it through the center hole here for the screw, and then I'm going to put it in this one here.
Okay.
And there is going to be a little slot, but we're actually not going to tighten this up until we get the frame put together. So this is going to be kind of the last step.
Move that hand, man.
It's tightening that up.
Okay.
But now is the hard part. This is
the hard part.
Getting everything lined up. No, soldering's easy.
This is the easy part.
Basically, you'll see there's a little bit of movement.
Yeah, you want to tighten up when you're ready to go.
Yeah. Right? Basically, we're going to do the lineup and then we'll tighten it up at the end. That way, we're not constantly loosening and tightening. Right. All right. So pretty much the Swift is installed. Now, one thing I will say, if you're running the stock receiver here,
yes,
it's going to be very close. Let's go ahead and show you. And keep in mind, you will not be using the side plates anymore at this point because the buttons are in the way. Unless you modify the side plate, cut it out in various spots.
I don't think you need side. Most frames use side plates.
It seems to help the strength if you're crashing a lot, but realistically...
Well, so don't crash if you put the RunCam Split in.
Yeah, you don't want to HD record all your crashes, right? Receiver has to kind of go forward as possible.
Forward towards the front of the camera?
Towards the front, towards the camera, to keep it out of the way of this, because it's going to be very tight. All right, so basically this has to be towards the front. You don't want it sitting over middle.
You couldn't put it back there or something, the receiver?
You could probably flip it around, but then your antennas won't reach.
Oh, yeah, you don't want the antennas to be cut and chopped up. What about flipping that around 180? Well, that won't do anything.
Then the antenna's going to be in the front. Okay. All right, cut the dumb questions out.
They're not dumb.
That point now is when you're going to want to put your SD card in. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard because you can't open it. You have to take the top plate back off. So you just put your SD card in there. Drop it down and lock it.
Okay.
So basically, just line up everything. Get there. Take one of the screws.
Okay. Same stock screws, right?
Yeah, these are the factory top plate screws. Right. Before you put all the back plates in, again, make sure your receiver has space, that the arch in the receiver is forward, because if it's too far back and it hits the plate, then you can damage your flight controller stack or your split. Right here, but you can see where it angles back, so you got a little bit of a gap there, and it's still got enough gap for the camera to rotate and everything.
Okay. And
that's another reason why I put the camera farther forward, because if I go any farther back, that connector's in the way. You have the X6B receiver. That cleans up a lot of room, makes a lot of room in there. You can actually put the taller standoffs in there to kind of create like a little brace and all that if you wanted to, and you can move the camera around more. You got a lot more room when working. This is a much better receiver if you got the time to upgrade it.
All right. And they're right there.
Now that we got the camera in, you'll see that we have a pretty good range of motion. If you need it straight forward, if you need a full tilt, you can actually get it pretty far back there if you want. You will get angle in the camera, but it gives you a pretty good range of motion to move around stuff and figure out where you want it. So that's pretty much the install there. So now we just got to get it powered up and configured. And you can program this through the buttons on the OSD, or you can do the Wi-Fi. Again, if you do the Wi-Fi, you're going to pretty much have to take the split back off. This has to go this way. You might be able to bend the pins, move the wires out of the way, but this screw gets in the way too, so it's a real big pain in the butt if it's even possible to get it in there, because it has to mount like that. Pretty much just program it through the buttons. It's a lot easier.
That's an unfortunate thing about the Wi-Fi module. It won't fit there, but...
Or if you really want to, you can play with the Wi-Fi module before you actually install it. Just plug in the wire and power it up.
But like you said, if the ribbon comes out, please no smoke.
Let's power it up.
No smoke. Hey, RunCam. Hey, there we are.
We got video.
It is, and moving it around. Uh-oh, crap.
Did I break it?
I just dropped all the screws on the floor. Yeah, tilt it all the way up. Show everybody what it looks like when it's all tilted up.
All right, so you can do full tilt. You can lower it down.
Full tilt, you don't even see the frame or anything. That's pretty cool. They're all
you're not going to see the frame in the FPV with this, but you are going to see it if you run the wide angle setting on the recording.
Okay.
So that's why I've got it there.
Got it. And then do they show up? Nope.
No, I don't think you're going to see it here. Again, you're gonna an extra several, 20
gotcha.
degrees.
Only when you
the recording HD recording. If you leave it on the wide angle setting, it's going to show the props, just a little bit of the props, and then the top plates. Which, if you have a file, you can actually shave that down. So this is with a really high angle on it, and again, you can adjust it to even more. You can get crazy amount of tilt in there if you really want to.
Is that the highest?
Well, it keeps it nice and fairly protected. So we're going to keep it at this angle here. And then I'm going to stop the recording. Guys, there you have it. That's a quick way to install the RunCam Split into the Wizard 220 with the stock receiver and all that.
Yep. Not too bad. 3 wires to solder.
3 wires to solder.
Guys, hope you enjoyed this. Another how-to video. Like and subscribe and let us know what you think. And link us to your high-def videos with your wizards or whatever you got. And let us watch and show all your videos to everybody else.
Time to go fly.
Yep.